There it is. All right, I got it back.
All right, so you're just waiting for.
Let's get balls deep. Welcome to episode number 72 of Balls Deep Red Sox Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Chikaris. Alongside me, as always, virtually, of course, is Andrew Andrews, super producer, and joining us today, special guest, very special guest.
Hey.
Very excited to have him on the show. We'd like to welcome BoSox Injection writer.
That's a bit that name,
BoSox. Hey, hold on. Wait 1 second. I gotta admit something. We welcome Drew Athans to the show. Drew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Drew and I both wrote for a different website a couple of years ago, or last year, I should say, and now we're both on BoSox Injection. So it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have been working with you for the past couple of years.
Likewise.
Like to finally have you on the show. But yeah, Andy, can I and Drew, I'll admit this to you too. Do you know how long it took me to figure out that BoSox Injection was supposed to be a play on Botox injection?
Longer than it should have.
I mean,
I just think of like hot beef injection. You know?
it was way longer than
it should have.
Than a guy that has a master's degree in English should have taken.
That's awesome.
But I finally figured it out.
Drew, how'd you end up a Red Sox fan out there? You're in Indiana?
I'm in Indiana. I'm from New Hampshire. So I was born in Worcester. When I was 2, we moved back to New Hampshire. So, yeah, I've only been out here 3 years. So.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, to start the show off today, obviously the big news is the Red Sox get their punishment for the sign stealing scandal in 2018, which from what I read was limited to a couple of incidents during the 2018 regular season.
Yeah, it wasn't twice we did it.
The Red Sox punishment is that they lose a second-round pick, and their video replay guy, J.T. Watkins, is banned for 2020.
Johnny Stremski, is that his name?
Yeah, exactly. And this is the wacky part, right? And from doing the same job in 2021.
Yeah.
Like, what? All right, so what are they going to do? Make him an usher? Like, who knows?
If I'm not mistaken, I think they announced today that they're going to hire him for some other job in 2021 anyway. So
right. So
they should give him a suitcase of money. Is what they should
exactly.
Do.
It'll probably be the same thing with a different title.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's like
assistant GM.
I mean, that's like
assistant to the traveling secretary.
Yeah. There you go.
That's just like them telling me, like, all right, you're not going to do your regular job. You're going to be doing, you're going to landscape the grounds, which I probably prefer at this point anyway.
Yeah.
All right, but I think I think that's a weird punishment. Okay, Alex Cora was banned for 2020. That only has to do with his conduct with the Astros.
Yeah.
Are we buying this? Why did this take so long? Because ultimately, and John Heyman tweeted this out a couple of hours ago too. He's like, maybe it was a slap in the wrist because they didn't really do that much. So Heyman's on Team Red Sox. So Drew, what do you got on this?
I mean, it took way longer than it should have, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there probably wasn't a lot there. I mean, okay, everyone points back to the John Farrell, the Apple Watch thing in 2017, which honestly, if that doesn't happen, they probably skate completely scot-free in this. I mean, they had a prior, all right, they're gonna get some punishment. I mean, I don't understand how looking at video and trying to figure out signs after the fact, how that's just as bad as what the Astros were doing in real time. So, I mean, this seems like, Manfred had to do something, especially he was getting crushed for what he didn't do when he punished the Astros. He had to do something. The Red Sox got a slap on the wrist. I mean, the Cora thing, whatever, they're probably, even if there is a season this year, he wasn't going to manage. So I don't know. It just seems just like everything Manfred does, he fucked it up. You know, I mean, it
Yeah.
could have been done better. It could have been done easier, and he just didn't do a good job.
Right. I mean, we could have found this out in February. Andy, what do you got?
My question, first of all, with the Alex Cora, when the Astros got their punt, because those guys were fired, but they officially are banned for 1 year, right?
Right.
Okay, the coach and the GM.
Yeah.
Yep.
When did they specifically say we're not ruling on Alex Cora because of this new thing? Like, why wasn't the Alex Cora? Because they've made it very clear this Alex Cora punishment is for the Astros thing. Why wasn't that punishment already doled out?
Yeah, especially because when you look at I think MLB's report when they doled out the Astros punishment, supposedly his name was included in there more than anyone else.
Yeah, he was the ringleader.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I have no idea.
This makes no sense to me. You have this guy who, and again, they were very clear. Alex Cora was not involved with anything in the Red Sox. So essentially, the exact same thing happened between the Red Sox and the Astros, coincidentally, because this guy who went from, it's literally like a serial killer moving to a different town, and the exact same thing starts happening, and they go, no, it's weird.
It's coincidence.
Weird coincidence, yeah.
Yeah, just to chime in on that, you know, from what I read too, I guess it was, you know, this guy, this JT Watkins guy, you know, I guess it was the players that were going down and kind of being like, hey, can I take a look? And of course he let them. What is a low-level video guy going to say?
Yeah, exactly. You've got like JD Martinez coming in. Can I look at the? Yeah. Exactly. You're going to say no? I mean,
no, that's against the rules, JD. Yeah, exactly. And also, can I have your autograph? Like, come on, give me a break.
It really doesn't make sense at all, because either you have something or you don't have anything. So you don't have the coach, you don't have the GM, you don't have the president of baseball operations, who's not there anymore. So what are you going to – I mean, they would have made more sense to pin it on Dombrowski.
Yeah.
That's true.
He's not there.
Exactly. True.
That'd be a freebie for them.
But to your point, Andy, you know, whereas the Astros were not, you know, they traced this up really to the top levels, and it was directed. It was you know, it was a directive coming from the top, and I know that players like Beltran and stuff, they were kind of into it, and I think Cora was basically you know, it was like a peer pressure type of thing where he was coerced into doing it, and he was going to help out a friend, and you know,
I don't know if it's coerced. Easy there, Mark.
Well, no, I'm not saying there was a gun to his head. I'm not saying there was a gun to his head, but I think he was probably like, well, you know, I do think he was probably like, well, you know, it's my buddy, so I'll do it. But you know, the Astros players were exempt, so why weren't no Red Sox players were going to be called on this?
And they actually said today too that even if they hadn't given the Red Sox players immunity, none of them would have gotten punished. None of them would have gotten punished because they didn't do anything. I mean, they've spent all winter saying we didn't do anything, and they didn't.
Right. Yeah.
Did they get immunity? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
They did. They did give them immunity. Yeah, that's what I'd read today.
It's the same thing that they gave the Astros.
Right. And you know what that is they're afraid to be tough on the players. I think it's because, you know, the CBA's up after next year, and it's going to be a shitstorm anyway. I mean, they don't need to throw fuel on that fire.
That's literally like blaming the equipment managers for the steroid scandal. You know what I mean? Like, this is what they've done. Like, oh, no. The players weren't doing this. They weren't injecting anything in their ass.
Right.
It was the equipment guy who cleaned the locker room after.
Yeah.
They were sleeping, and the equipment guy just
was just jamming stuff in their ass as they walked in. They didn't know what it was. Yeah, they were told it was vitamin D.
Ridiculous.
So just a couple of things. So Cora comes out with a statement basically saying, you know,
Cora, who is the coach of the Boston Red Sox in 2021. There is no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where I was going next. What do you guys think on Cora coming back? So Andy, you think he's coming back? Drew, what do you think?
No doubt.
I don't know. I don't think he is. I think honestly, I think the Red Sox just want to move past this. I think they want to and we know how much they don't like bad press. They don't like any bad PR. I think they just want to put this behind them. You know, they don't want to have Cora there. This is just my opinion. And then people, you know, they can always point to 2018 and they can always say, you know, he was a cheater and now he's their manager. I don't know. My gut says they don't bring him back.
Well, then he ends up being a manager somewhere else.
He might, yeah.
Guaranteed.
And
Yep.
to your point,
He'll have a job in 2021.
well, yeah, to your point, Andy, and kind of in classic Red Sox fashion, where they talk out of both sides of their mouth. I think Sam Kennedy said some stuff today that was basically leaning toward, ooh, there might be a Cora reunion. And then Chaim Bloom was like, no, he's not coming back. So, you got these two guys kind of going like that.
Yeah, that's funny, like pretending Chaim Bloom actually has a choice in that.
I know.
Especially if there's no season. Like Chaim, are we going to really all of a sudden pretend that like this GM has like an actual choice? Come on.
Exactly. One thing that's been interesting, they haven't trashed Cora. We haven't gotten the hit piece in the Globe, so maybe that does leave the door open. They haven't burned that bridge like they do with everyone else.
I know they do love
That's
Cora.
a good point. That's almost like guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so we got that. So let's talk about baseball. We've discussed this baseball coming back, I should say. Andy and I, we've kind of touched on this, but Drew, we'll get your take. So last week, I think it was late last week, Dr. Fauci, of course, who's in charge of the infectious disease stuff for the United States, stated that he thinks baseball can return under the right circumstances. The first thing he said, obviously, was there'd be no fans. He thinks it could happen in July with weekly testing and basically, keeping the players in isolated hotel situations where they're not going out grocery shopping. They're not going out. Obviously, they're not going out to bars or restaurants anyway at this point. But different parts of the country may open up at different times. So and God knows I would love that. I think we all would.
Yeah.
But to piggyback on that, Andy, what do you got on hockey?
I just heard that they were talking about today. Some teams now, it hasn't been every team, so it's kind of reported. It's really not clear yet, but some teams have said to their players, May 15th, be ready for what they're calling informal preseason conditioning, things like that. And I think the plan is preseason June 1st. Some kind of getting the team back together to get a month to skate, get a month to – I don't know what you do. I mean, you can't really do scrimmages why would you bring another team in unless you were spending the money to go full out NHL? You know what I mean? So I don't know what you would do with that.
Inter-squad scrimmages, I would assume.
Yeah, just to get everybody ready, get everybody skating. And I do worry about the NHL because every other sport – you can kind of do it at home. You can throw the ball. You can get in the cage. You can shoot basketball. You know what I mean? It's the one sport where really, like, no matter how much I'm sure they're working now. I'm sure they're conditioning. Skating is different. It's different. So I do wonder how they're going to really get their legs back. And it could kind of be a shit show in the NHL for the first
might be, yeah.
Game.
Might be like watching Pee Wee for a little bit.
Guys like Thornton and things like that. They rule for the first couple games.
Well, I think if hockey comes back and baseball doesn't, I think that's going to be devastating.
Disaster.
Absolutely
gigantic
disaster.
mistake.
Yeah. Because not to beat a dead horse, but
hold on one second. Yeah. Not just hockey. Playoff hockey comes back.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's the whole deal.
Presumably they're going to scrap the rest of the regular season that they miss and just start with the playoffs, right?
There's a couple teams who are close to that line, so maybe some kind of play-in tournament for those teams. You know what I mean?
But even that's going to be awesome because I'm not the biggest hockey fan.
That's longer playoffs. Yeah,
the playoffs are awesome. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that if baseball can't get its act together, and Drew, as Andy and I talked about, baseball is the easiest sport to social distance with.
Oh yeah. Other than the catcher and the umpire and the batter,
right.
Unless there's a play at a base, you're not anywhere near anyone.
Exactly. So they're going to miss an opportunity if they don't make this happen. Honestly.
When you're playing sport, it's not the social, but the social distancing. Once you're playing the sport, you're in the arena. It's kind of like and obviously I would never compare these people, but the firefighters, the people in hospitals aren't worrying about social distancing. You know what I mean? They're
Right,
just working. But so once you're in the arena, you don't really worry about social distancing. You're segregated for the, you're segregated from the rest of the community. If someone gets sick, you remove them from the group. And so it's, I don't really think the actual sport matters, to be honest.
Agreed.
No, that's a good point. I mean, even like I went to work today and, everyone's working around each other like normal. So it's, we're all not sick. So yeah, you're probably right. I mean, once they get in there, maybe they're not going to high five. Maybe they're going to high elbow, like they've been doing.
Stuff like that. I mean,
yeah,
you're crashing into somebody, or there's play second base, there's the first baseman, and they do get close to each other.
Yep.
Maybe they'll have them wear remember those face masks in like Little League, the helmets. They'll just wear those clunky helmets the whole time.
What about the outfield dance? That's what I care about.
You gotta dance from afar.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, speaking of live baseball coming back, the Taiwanese team, the Fubon Guardians. By the way, I love the fact that the names of these baseball teams in Taiwan are named after corporations. I just think it's wicked funny.
Oh, it's the same way in Korea. When I was over there in September and I went to a Korean baseball game, all the team names are the companies that own them. So you don't even know what city they're from unless you actually look it up.
It's great.
Yeah.
So by the way, 2016 Taiwan League champions, by the way, the Fubon Guardians.
Well,
there we
go. We'll be live streaming.
Is Taiwan a real country?
What's that?
Taiwan, that's the old Chinese country, right? Is that what
Yeah.
That's like the free country.
Yeah.
We're not breaking any like diplomatic rules or something by like.
Evidently not.
Okay, let's make sure.
Because they're so the news is they're going to be live streaming their games with English commentary. Andy, was this, you told me about this, was this on YouTube or is it going to be on Twitter?
I don't know what's going to be on. I saw that thing. I want to say almost it might be the Twitch or something like that.
Yeah.
But these are the same ones where they actually were putting like dummies in the stands.
It looked like the old video games, right? Where like everyone just
it really did.
Everyone's
like cardboard cutouts. Yeah.
Or Bases Loaded, was that the game?
Yeah.
Bases Loaded.
RBI and Bases Loaded. Yeah.
Everyone's just flat. It was great.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess they're trying to have something. I mean.
Well, hey, I just wrote this down in my notes. It's like, if this goes through, and it reaches the biggest platform, the Fubon Guardians are going to sell more merchandise than any other team in the world if they can.
I'll buy a shirt.
Me too.
Yeah. Why not?
I mean, I looked up their logo. It looks like it looks like a high school's mascot logo, just like a knight. And it's not done very well. But whatever. I'm all in on the Fubon Guardians. What the hell?
Are there any in the whole Taiwan League? I really know little. Obviously, we don't know anything. Is it a place where like there's Americans, like old major league players, or do we know?
I would guess. So. Yeah, I mean, when I was in Korea, there were a few Americans on the Korean teams that I saw.
So like all of a sudden, like a Jeff Bagwell would show up or something like that,
Yep.
Manny Ramirez, didn't he play in like Japan?
He might have gone to Japan, yeah.
He did Japan for a while.
Yep.
He did Mexico for a while, then he did Japan for a while, yeah.
Got busted for steroids in both countries.
No, they don't. Stop it.
All right. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk a little bit about one of Drew's articles. So Drew,
all right, let me pull this up.
Yeah. So Drew wrote a couple of really entertaining articles this past month, and of course, all of us who are trying to get some material out and get some page views out there, we're having we got to really dig deep. So Drew did a couple of the worst free agent signings in Red Sox history. So Drew, you want to talk about that? And while you're talking about that, at first I'm going to refill this. So go.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So I guess the easiest thing to do, we can just go down the list and talk about how much each of these guys sucked.
Well, the worst is the best, yeah.
Oh, I know exactly. So the first one I had.
Drew, before you start, like a good free agent signing, that's easy. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Let's sign him.
Exactly. Dave Ortiz. Exactly. So, do we want to wait for him or we want to get started?
Fuck him. Let's go.
All right. So the first one I have is Andre Dawson. So this was
Oh, the Hawk.
93, I think, is when they signed him. And I remember being, I was 13 at the time. And so, of course, in my mind, Andre Dawson, oh, man, he was awesome on the Cubs. And, this is going to be great. And I remember my dad telling me, said, man, he's old, he's broken down. And at the time, he used to say that the Red Sox always get these guys when they're way past their prime. And it took about half a season for me to understand what he was talking about with Andre Dawson. I mean, his knees were shot. He couldn't do anything in the outfield. And I think he ended up getting hurt either at the end of that season or in the next one and, missed half of it.
He had a fucked up batting stance, too. It was really kind of
very weird.
Because you could tell he was hurt.
Yeah.
And I was playing JV baseball at the time. And this is so embarrassing. But, and I was one of those kids for baseball. I'm okay at other sports. Baseball, I was one of those. They let me hang around because I was kind of athletic and I could tell some jokes and I did. I was good at chewing seeds. Kind of one of those things. You know what I mean? And fucking, we used to joke JV baseball. I'd get a couple at bats here and there. So I was we got jackets and the poor parents paid for these fucking jackets. And I put Hawk on the name of my jacket, and I never wore it. By the time I got the jacket, the joke was over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just the worst.
Oh, and then you're like, now I've got this fucking jacket that says Hawk on it.
Yeah, and I couldn't wear it at all.
Yeah.
Well, Drew, to your point,
I was 17 years old, and I realized I couldn't wear this thing. It was absolutely horrible.
But to your point, Drew, and Andy too, I was wicked psyched at first when they signed Andre Dawson, and what a disaster that was. And to the Red Sox credit, I will say this, that the 80s into the getting into the mid 90s, they kind of stopped it in the late 90s, but the 80s up until the early and mid 90s, they were famous for signing these guys that were.
Oh yeah, I mean, another one I wrote about. I think he was in my Washed Up Players article, but around kind of the same time, Jack Clark.
Oh yeah,
that was another guy. I was like, oh man, this guy, he's going to hit the homers, and he's been real good with the Cardinals. I think, right? He was real good with the Cardinals.
Yeah,
big surprise. Someone who's good with the Cardinals and is good somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that kind of leads to the next one on my list, who was Edgar Renteria.
Oh,
that was a bad one.
That might.
That was I
forgot about that, to be honest. My worst I have burned in my brain, obviously, and I forgot about Renteria. That was
he hits the last out against them in the World Series in 2004, and then they bring him in to play shortstop. I think he got booed at Fenway Park in April, because he was hitting under 150. And I think they signed him for 4 years, and he was gone at the end of the season.
Yeah, they traded him.
My two worst are Theo Epstein, because it's the most recent. And I forgot about that. That's a big mistake by Theo.
That was a bad
one. Saw him and just somehow was gushing all over that guy, and it did not happen.
I remember the two things I remember about Renteria were he kind of trashed the Marathon Monday start, that 11 o'clock start.
Oh, it's too early.
Yeah, he's like, it's too early.
I remember that.
He's like, only in America. It's like, well, it's like, actually, it's not anywhere else except for Boston on this day. So, I mean, I don't know.
And it's been a tradition for how many years, and you're brand new here, and you're going to say something about it?
And it's 10:30, so it's not that early.
Exactly.
And then he said, and then the other thing, remember he kept bitching about the condition of the infield? That was the other thing.
Yes.
He had a million errors that year.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just awful, absolutely brutal that year.
And he's like, this infield is not good or something. It's like, maybe
you're not good.
Chip them out. Smell you later. Give me a couple more, Drew.
All right. So another one, this is another guy that Theo was enamored with, and I'm sure you guys remember the same way as I do. He pretty much bid against himself way more than he needed to for this guy. This guy sucked. He had maybe a couple of hits in the postseason this season in 2007. Julio Lugo.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
What's up?
I don't know though. Julio Lugo.
Dude, he was awful.
Dude, he was awful.
Conflicted.
He was terrible.
He was awful.
I know. He had some good moments though. He really
He did.
did.
He had a couple of big hits
Not wrong,
in the
yeah.
postseason.
Did he win the World Series?
Yes, they
Yeah.
did in 07.
Yeah, and he was involved in that.
He did.
Well,
he had a couple of good hits. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I'll never forget.
How much did they pay him?
Hold on. I can tell you in a sec. You guys can keep going. I'll pull that up.
Well,
Yeah,
Andy, I
he
remember.
seemed like-
All right. 4 years, $36 million.
Oh, that ain't great.
And again, I remember like no one was bidding on this guy. Theo just kept jacking the price up because I think he was terrified someone else was going to sign him. It's like no one's going to sign him. But
Yeah, it's what Julio Lugo is one of those guys where I think Theo Epstein wanted him because he was a Red Sox killer. And it's like, that's like me with like CJ Cron or Crone, whatever his name is. Like, I want the Red Sox to sign him because I don't want him to destroy the Red Sox anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And
Like
I've never
things.
gotten that logic. This guy plays great against us. So that means when he's on our team, he's going to play great. No, it doesn't work that way. It's like you said, it's more to keep him away.
Exactly. And someone had a great tweet a while ago. This is a long time ago, and I forget who it was, but they said, I can't believe we won the 2007 World Series with that. They didn't call him a scatter brain. They called him like a scatter-armed shortstop in Julio Lugo. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that was the thing he had a lot of problems with, was throwing over to first base. He had a lot of problems with that. So that was bad. All right, you want to do one more?
Tweet on Julio.
Yeah, let me so I think we could go Pablo Sandoval. That's a bit too easy.
That's
I think
too easy. I mean,
Too easy.
So
Everyone agrees with that.
I think the next one. I mean, everyone will agree with this one, but it kind of segues from what you said, Mark, about guys that always play well against you that then you sign. Carl Crawford.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was another guy. He killed the Red Sox every time they played him, and then they went out. And that was also, if I remember correctly, that was the offseason where ratings were down on Nesson, and Tom Werner said, "We got to make a splash."
Yep.
And so he kind of forced Theo to sign him. And
no, that I think was the beginning of the end for Theo in Boston.
Yeah.
And
I think he said that. I think he's mentioned that as soon as he let them influence the baseball decisions, he knew his time was
no,
up.
for me that is the worst signing for the Red Sox. If I had to pick one in my obviously my lifetime, but he is the number one, and I really do believe it was the whole. Because after Theo talked about how difficult it is for the bridge year and like that, that's where the word bridge year came up and stuff like that. And I really do believe that he was the beginning of the end for Theo.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, the owners, again, you guys might remember better than I do because it's been however many years, 10 years. But when he said the bridge year thing, they kind of went into the press and said, "Oh, no, we don't do bridge years. We contend every year."
Yeah. And,
they kind of undermined him there. And, that combined with the shitty Nesson ratings that they were all worried about. I mean, that's a move that made no sense, and you're bringing in this guy. You've already got a leadoff hitter in Ellsbury at the time. You bring in Crawford. He's awful in the number 2 spot. I think he ended up going down to like the 7 or 8 spot. And for me, the memory that sticks in my head is him blowing that catch against Baltimore in the last game during the collapse month, of September.
And of course it was him. And to your point, Drew, I was just about to talk about this. You had a very similar player in Ellsbury, and you had Ellsbury for another 2 years.
Yep.
And that was just that's just like it's like a really dumb sign. That's like having, like a big burly first baseman who can hit 50 homers and then but can only hit, 200, like an Adam Dunn, and then you sign the exact same guy.
No, it really, for the Red Sox and for Red Sox sports media, it really is that moment when people started talking about, are we talking about the team? Are we talking about the TV show? It was that whole, like, reality TV was huge at the time, and the whole, because the Nesson wanted to do
the Love Connection show.
Yeah, they had that stupid dating show, yeah.
Yeah, it really was a big moment for the Red Sox, and they fucked it up.
Yep.
Bad.
By the way,
because
as usual,
like they were 1 millisecond away from becoming as big as MTV, as big, you know what I mean? And they just fucked it up, like the whole.
By the way,
let's make the Red Sox reality. Nope.
The other lasting image of Carl Crawford was at his introductory press conference my 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 man was sweating bullets. Do you guys remember that? He was just like,
Yeah. I do.
he looked like Kevin Youkilis on a July day in like Texas out there.
You mean September? But
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So, Drew, thanks for that.
No problem.
All listeners out there, you're going to check out Drew's writing. He's crushing it. His articles are phenomenal, and they're entertaining, and they're spot on, and that's why we like him. That's why he's a friend of the show.
The only one we left out, hold on for 1 millisecond. Yeah. The only person besides Carl Crawford who's definitely there for me, Canseco's there.
So, a lot of people brought him up. The one reason I didn't put him on that list was that if you look, he was with the Sox for 2 years, and if you look at his numbers, he hit, I think, 25 homers one year, 28 the next. He did miss a lot of games for injury, but when he was there, he was hitting. So I didn't feel like he was quite a bust the way these guys were.
For me, Canseco is more it's more of the TV show. It's like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost because of what did he come after baseball.
Exactly.
It makes it worse for the signing. Where at the time, whatever, it's a guy, he can swing, he's got a big hit, especially in Fenway Park. You do all right there.
Oh, yeah.
It's after baseball how much of a boob. But I want to call him a boob, but
he was right.
Kind of right about everything.
He was right. Yeah. And then did you see what he tweeted on Easter? He said, "Happy Easter to everyone except Alex Rodriguez."
Perfect.
That's perfect.
All right, so real quick, guys, we're going to switch it up a little bit of football talk here. Gronk to Tampa, comes out of retirement. He's going to join Tom Brady with the Bucs. Drew, your thoughts?
My initial thought is why the hell are you doing this, Gronk? I come back to what I said when he retired the first time, and I thought, it was good that he retired. I said, look, you're 30, you got 3 rings, you're going to be a slam dunk Hall of Famer, you've got a smoking hot girlfriend, you've got plenty of money because, there's been some articles, he's been real smart with his money. I think he lived off his endorsement money. He's banked all his NFL money. It's like, what? And he's got all this stuff. He's got, the Fox Sports thing, the WWE. He's got all sorts of – he was on the freaking Masked Singer. Why are you doing this? Why are you coming back? You were saying how badly you hurt after the last Super Bowl, and you're going to put yourself through this again. So I don't get it.
Drew, everything he's done since retirement has fucking sucked.
Oh, it has. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that at all. And it's gotten annoying to the point where
on like the whole football analysis thing should be his bread and butter. He was fucking.
Oh, he was horrible. Yeah.
He was and I'm a wrestling guy, so he was so bad.
And he won the belt, right? Didn't I see that? He actually. He won the belt.
Which the only thing that can make this work is that he's got the 24/7 champion, which means at any time someone could challenge him. He's still a champ, as far as we know. The idea that during some preseason game, some guy from WWE could attack him on the sideline and get the that would be amazing.
That would be awesome.
Besides that,
I want it to be you somehow.
Is fucking blown.
Oh, I completely agree with you. My thing was just
why do we all believe though this whole he saved every penny since what? That's what he's told us.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he has. Yeah, no, maybe he hasn't. But I don't know. It was kind of surprising. I didn't. And I think he's got the CBD business now too, right? Doesn't he have that?
Yeah, he's
what he cried about.
He's selling weed and stuff. No,
yeah. Now you got to pass a drug test.
You can't do CBD now. I don't think you can do the CBD business now. They didn't.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Yeah.
Well, that's to your point, Andy. I think a lot of people thought, and maybe even Gronk himself thought, that his wild and crazy personality was going to get him a lot of gigs. And I love the guy. I love what he did, and obviously he's a smart guy. Knew the playbook, worked hard, knows. But he is the most inarticulate meathead I've ever seen.
Can't fucking read, dude.
He can't talk. He can't talk. So how can you be this wild and crazy personality if you can't talk? And it's one thing if you're getting interviewed after a game and you're just being spontaneous and you're just being yourself. But when someone's got a microphone in your face, or
no, but he's not doing SNL. You know what I mean?
Well, he can't deliver lines like in a movie. Give me a break.
Oh yeah. Have you seen? He was in some like really shitty low budget movie a few years ago where he played like I think he was like a bouncer at a nightclub, and I just saw a clip on YouTube, but it was I mean terrible. He had like one line and he couldn't even do that.
Now, did you guys
So
read
the cool thing about him, he has all this money saved. I don't know, man.
Well, you know,
This seems like a move of somebody who
needs the money.
Needs money.
Yeah. That's
Did
true.
you guys
Maybe
read the
for both
Gronking to Remember? Did you guys read the Gronking to Remember?
I never actually read it. I obviously remember it.
That fan fiction love story that some woman wrote about banging Gronk.
Oh, I'm sure you can lay the pipe. I mean,
I might have to read that over this quarantine just for the hell of it.
And she got in trouble for that, I think. I think he or someone associated with him, said, "Hey, we have a trademark on the word Gronk or whatever, and so you can't do that." Yeah,
he laughed it off, but I think I don't.
He laughed it off, but his lawyers didn't.
Right, exactly.
no, of course not.
All right, one last thing, guys, and then we'll call it a day for the podcast. So this is just an interesting little bit of baseball trivia. And actually, I'm thinking about this. I want to mention this too before I get into my point because I read this right before we started podcasting. Today was I believe, 20-year anniversary of Fernando Tatis. He hit the 2 grand slams in one inning. Do you guys remember that off of Chan-Ho Park?
Yep.
He hit 2 grand slams in one inning off the same pitcher. And some baseball experts say that's the one that will never happen again.
And who I want to know why. If a guy gives up a grand slam, why the fuck is he still in there pitching? Go through the batting order again.
He gave up 3 home runs that inning. 2 grand slams and another home run.
That's crazy.
Who's the Red Sox for 2 grand slams?
Bill Miller did it, right?
Yeah, Bill Miller did it. I wrote about that.
Yeah,
weeks ago.
Yeah.
But that was from different sides of the
both
plate.
sides of the plate, right.
Against different pitchers. But Tatis did it in the same inning against the same pitcher. So I don't know.
That coach could be arrested.
Well, was that? I think that was Mattingly, though. I think that was Don Mattingly. I think
it might have been
managing the Dodgers.
That's some kind of mental torture he's doing to that pitcher. I mean, that's literally
the pitcher obviously pissed him off.
Yeah. Either that or they'd completely run out of pitchers at that point. I mean,
or the pitcher was pissed at the coach and he was like, "All right, here you go."
Yeah.
Fuck you. Whatever.
All right, so here's my.
I'm going to be in Albany next week. Here you go.
Yeah.
All right, so here's my little bit of trivia. All right, so Jamie Moyer, we the 3 of us know who he is. For those of you who don't know who he is, Jamie Moyer was obviously a professional pitcher. He was a lefty, I believe, right? He was
Yep.
He started his major league career in 1986 with the Chicago Cubs. He moved to the Rangers, Cardinals, Orioles. He pitched for the Red Sox in 1996.
Yep.
And this is classic Red Sox, by the way. He didn't have a great ERA when he pitched for the Sox. I think it was in the low 4s. But he did go 7-1 for the Red Sox. Right?
Was that when they got Earl Hershiser? It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. So the Sox traded him to Seattle for Darren Bragg. That's classic Red Sox. You have a guy who goes 7-1, and you trade him for basically a 4th outfielder.
Yeah,
to my point, that's your late 1990s Boston Red or mid 1990s Boston Red Sox, right?
Yep.
Anyway.
Name Red Sox your parents forgot about. Darren Bragg.
Yeah, exactly.
I only remembered him. I recently watched Clemens' second 20 strikeout game from '96, and Bragg was, I think, the starting center fielder in that game. There were a lot of no names on that team.
It's not good.
Dude, the mid '90s were dark.
It was awful. Yeah.
Awful. So he went to the Phillies, Rockies, Blue Jays, and then back to the Orioles. He pitched for 25 years. Okay, in the major leagues. When he retired, so he pitched from 1986. 1986, he retired in 2012. Okay, and this is
family.
What was that?
When they killed his family? Is that what you're telling us?
No. He had when he retired, he had faced 9% of every major league batter ever. So from the 1800s to 2012, he faced 9% of every person that ever stepped to a major league plate. I thought that was wild.
That is crazy.
Is that the most?
Yo, yeah, by far.
That's crazy when you think
9%.
about how many more teams and players there are, in that era also.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why his numbers went up, because you look at a guy like Jim Cott, right? He pitched for like 25 years.
Ooh.
But Jim Cott,
for the Twins.
yeah. I think he played for the Twins. He played for the Cardinals. And he played.
Should be in the Hall of Fame. If you look at him, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I think he's like 5 wins shy of 300.
Yeah.
And
that's it's a longevity thing.
Everyone else.
Yeah.
It's a longevity thing, but he pitched forever, but there wasn't as many teams. So Moyer pitched both leagues. He pitched for a lot of different teams. So it's not like he played 25 years for just the AL East and only faced X amount of guys. He pitched in both leagues. He pitched before expansion, after expansion. So this guy, he faced everyone.
Yeah.
I think that's a crazy.
And he was close. He was close to 50 when he retired, wasn't he? He was like 48, 47, something.
Yeah,
like that.
he was at least mid to late 40s.
Yeah.
And by the way, besides that last year of 2012, where he had a 5+ ERA, he was pretty effective. I mean, even in his later years, I think he's
proved that
1 ERA or something like 2 years before he retired. Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
He's proof that like my kids are lucky that they're not guys, because if I had a boy and he was right-handed, I would fucking strap that arm right down and I would be like, hey, listen, dude, you are left-handed.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I got 4 kids and both my boys are righties.
Yeah.
My
daughter's
a lefty.
4, and my youngest daughter's a lefty. That's it. The others are all righties.
I would be like, you are a lefty. This is what we're doing. You can throw absolute garbage. And at the very least, like literally, my brother, who he's a hockey player. He's a very good athlete, but he's not a baseball player. And he's left-handed. He got to play Division III college baseball just because he was left-handed. That's all you have to do.
Yep.
My high
and
school.
you don't have,
Go ahead,
no,
Drew,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you don't have to throw hard, because Moyer, I think, topped out in like the mid-80s, right?
No. He threw fucking garbage. The first time, it was I was a freshman. It was his junior year. We were both on the hockey team. I was a freshman. It was junior year. All of a sudden, the baseball coach is like, you're left. We were at a ping pong tournament, and he was playing with his left hand. And he's an athlete, so the coach is like, oh, you're left-handed? Because he was running the intramural program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, did you ever play baseball? He goes, yeah, I played in high school, college, blah, blah, blah. He's like, my brother, it's funny. He's like, yeah, I had a bunch of home runs in high school. It was kind of cool. And he's like, no. You're left-handed, right? And he goes, yeah, show up to practice. So he showed up to practice. And it was one of those things where, like, he didn't make the team, but, like, they were always like, yeah, show up to practice tomorrow. Show up to practice tomorrow. So and he was left-handed. And my brother is 6'4", and he maybe tops out at, like, 82 miles an hour. Like, he doesn't throw fast. Yeah. I was at a party and the catcher goes, no, I saw your brother. I was kind of scared, and I put a little pad in. I give him the 1. He throws the ball. Boom. And I go, no. I throw it back. I go, no. 1. I throw it then. Boom. He goes,
dude, throw your
fastball. He throws the ball back. He goes, so 1's fastball, right? And my brother's like, dude.
That's all I got.
And literally, he was left-handed. The coach said, yeah, we'll hang out. He was a good guy, too. So he's left-handed, hang out. You can throw him relief.
Cool.
No, my high school baseball coach took kids just because they threw left-handed, and he'd be like, all right, let's see if you can pitch. And if they could get it over the plate, he took them, because lefties, especially at that level, lefties have trouble hitting lefties. So
I would 100% strap my son's arm right down. No.
Just chop off his right arm. Pull a Jim Abbott. This is all you got, kid. All right, gentlemen.
Greatest player in baseball history, Jim Abbott.
Absolutely.
You've got one hand.
Gentlemen, thank you very much, Drew Athans, for joining us.
Nice, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
We're gonna definitely do this again. This is episode 72 of the Balls Deep Red Sox Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Jacaris. Andrew Andrews is our producer. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and now on our YouTube channel, which is under my name, Mark Chikares, Chekares. You can look at all 3 of our ugly mugs this week. And but it's quarantine mugs. We usually look better. We usually look better than this.
Yep.
So stay safe out there. Wear your masks, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.